So let's start with why do we gain fat? So one of the main reasons that we gain fat is because we are consuming excessive calories. The second reason is when you're having an unhealthy diet that leads toward gaining fat as well. The third reason is when you're not burning sufficient calories per day, you are most likely to gain fat. And the last is when you're eating more than your body's requirement, which is BMR. So we're going to talk about what is BMR and why is it important. Now let's talk about BMR. So what is BMR? BMR is basal metabolic rate. The very definition of BMR is basal metabolic rate is the total number of calories that your body needs to perform basic life-sustaining functions. These basal functions include circulation, breathing, cell production, nutrient processing, protein synthesis, and ion transport. Now, to put it in simple words, it's the amount of calories required for day-to-day activity. Now, talking about how to calculate BMR. So the formula is different for men and women. For men, it is 10 into weight in kgs plus 6.25 into height into centimeter minus 5 into age in years plus 5. Now if you see, the formula is visually the same for women, but however at the end of the formula, rather than having a plus 5 in men, we have a minus 161 in female. Now let's talk about how to calculate BMR. So when we talk about calculating BMR, let's take an example. So for example, we have someone with a weight of 92 kgs, height of 160 centimeter, and age of 30 years. Now, if you were to calculate BMR for men, the formula would look something like this. Now 10 into 92 kgs plus 6.25 into 160 centimeter, which is the height, minus 5 into 30, which is the age. Plus 5 is for men. So now if you do some quick calculation, you would get 1775 calories per day. Now, if you want to calculate for women, let's put this formula for women and see the difference. Now for women, like I said, visually the formula is the same. The only difference is the minus 161 at the end. So now if you do some quick calculations, your answer would be 1609 calories per day. So now if you see, there is a difference in calculation of formula for men and women, which is for men it is plus 5, for women it is minus 161. Apart from that, the formula is the same for every gender.
So let's understand what does BMI mean. So BMI stands for Body Mass Index. The very definition of body mass index is body mass index is a value derived from the mass and the height of a person. The BMI is defined as the body mass divided by the square of the body height and is universally expressed in units of kg slash m raised to power 2, resulting from mass in kilograms and height in meters. So if you were to understand BMI in simpler words, it means calculating the overall mass on your body. So how do you calculate BMI? Let's have a look at the formula. Now, the formula for BMI is same for men and women, but however, you can look at either the metric unit or the English unit, whichever you are comfortable with. So all you have to do is have weight, which is in kg, divided by height, which is in meter, raised to power 2, if you are calculating in metric unit. But if you are using the English unit, have 703, which is the conversion factor, multiply by weight in pounds, divided by height in inch, raised to power 2.
So once you have your BMI, it is very important to understand what does your BMI value represents. So let's have a quick look at the BMI chart to better understand the value that you have derived from calculating your BMI. So if your BMI is less than 18.5, it implicates that you are probably underweight. If it is between 18.5 and 24.9, it represents that you have an ideal BMI. If your BMI is between 25 and 29.9, it implies that you are overweight. However, if your BMI is above 30, it implies that you might be critically overweight. So if you take the value from our last example where the BMI was 35.94, so that would imply that this falls into above 30 category and implies that the person is critically overweight. This is the simplest way to understand your BMI and understand where you stand in your fitness journey. So let's try to understand what does BFP means. BFP stands for body fat percentage, the very definition of which is body fat percentage of a human or other living being is the total mass of fat divided by total body mass multiplied by 100. Body fat includes essential body fat and storage body fat. To put it in simpler terms, it is the amount of fat percentage on your body. Now there are several different ways to calculate body fat percentage, but to have a simpler formula that you could use at home, let's look at that. So if you were to calculate your body fat percentage at home, the formula would look something like this. Now to calculate your body fat percentage, you would also need the value of your BMI. And the formula is different for men and women. So if you observe, the formula for men is 1.2 multiplied by BMI plus 0.23 multiplied by age minus 16.2. Now if you observe, the formula is virtually the same for women. However, at the end of the formula, we have minus 5.4 for women and we have 16.2 for men. So let's have a quick look at how to calculate body fat percentage. So let's understand how to calculate BFP. So for calculating BFP, we are going to take the figures from the examples that we have already discussed, which is BMI. So let's suppose the BMI of the person is 35.94 and their age is 30. Now to calculate the body fat percentage for men, the formula would look something like this. 1.2 into 35.94, where 35.94 represents the BMI, plus 0.23 multiplied by 30, where 30 represents the age, minus 16.2. Now if you do some quick maths, your formula would look something like this, and the final answer would be 33.828%. Now if you were to calculate for women, the formula would look something like this.
1.2 into 35.94, where once again 35.94 represents the BMI, plus 0.23 into 30, where 30 once again represents the age, minus 5.4. Now if you do some quick maths, the formula would give you these figures, and the final answer would be 44.628%. So now if you understand, the only thing different between the formula for men and women is 16.2 for men and 5.4 for women. Now how do you understand if your body fat percentage is good enough or not? Let's have a quick look at that.
So once you have calculated your BFP, it is important to understand what does your BFP says about you. So to understand what does your BFP say about you, you need to understand this simplified BFP chart. So now if you see, there is a difference between men and women. So let's suppose if someone has 14% of body fat. So if the person is a male, it would imply that they are probably fit. And similarly, if a woman had similar body fat, which is 14%, that would imply that she is most likely very athletic. So to assess your BFP, you need to refer to this chart.